Going live. Curtis can finally hear the music.
Coming back, guys.
And know when to go.
Hot and heavy. Hey, guys. Welcome back to Testing Normal. This is Curtis.
And this is Jordan.
This is a podcast where we talk about everything and anything we want to. And
yeah.
We're on episode 89, right?
89. What are you going to do to celebrate 90?
The big 8-9. That's a great question. Well, 90 maybe, but 100. That's the real question.
Yeah, seriously.
What are we going to do for 100?
What are we going to do for 100?
I don't know. We'll have to nibble on that one. Guys, in perfect 2021 fashion, this week has been wild. It's been nonstop crazy stuff going on.
A lot's been happening.
Lots been happening.
And a lot of weird different things have been happening, and things that are, I believe, intertwined are happening.
Yes, totally. I agree with that. First of all, I want to give a shout out to my buddy Rodney Spohr. I just saw he logged in. Miss you, brother. Hope you're having a great night. I'm guessing you're working. Leave a comment. Let me know if you're working, because this guy's a master CT scanner. Buzzes people all day long. But first of all, I think probably what is on everybody's mind and heart, and it's probably like the most relevant thing right now, is Screech. Screech from Saved by the Bell, R.I.P. He died today.
Oh, that's who that was that you were saying? Oh my
gosh,
I'm a dork.
Screech died today.
No.
Pretty sad. Yeah, like 2 weeks ago, he went into the hospital, and they were kind of like vague about why he went into the hospital. And then I guess he had some type of like really aggressive carcinoma, some type of aggressive cancer, and he was apparently doing okay before 2 weeks ago, from what I understand. And then boom, cancer hit him, took him out, passed away.
How
today.
old was he?
That's a great question. Anybody, you guys can look that up. Let us know how old was Screech.
How old was Screech?
How old was Screech when he died today? I'm going to throw out there a number, and I could be wrong, but I'm going to say he was probably 45. I'm going to throw that number out there. Don't know if that's accurate. Don't hold me to it. Yeah, super sad. But also, he's been living kind of a wild life lately. Like a few years ago, he went to prison.
44. We have the winning age.
44? Good job, Dom.
Yep.
That's my man, Dom Bennett.
44.
Also, I want to give a compliment to Dom. He has been a connoisseur of home like projects lately. He's been rebuilding his house and like posting pictures and stuff. Super impressed, super proud. I love a fellow home tradesman connoisseur. So well done, Dom. Rodney, 44. Rodney said 44 as well, and working day shift. Good for you, man. Right on. Okay, so Screech died.
Moving up in the world.
I know. Seriously, that's like a prized possession when you're working in imaging department. So crappy situation for Screech and his family. But yeah, a couple years ago he went to prison because he stabbed a dude. Right? He was like stabbing people in a bar or something like that. I think it was. You not hear about that? Oh yeah.
I guess I don't keep up
crazy.
on the current news or whatever.
Also, real quick, I also wanted to give a shout out to. I wanted to say I was shocked to find out about this Dom Bennett. He has a sister, and she, I guess, just like won her second pro MMA fighting battle. Yeah, and I'm a huge MMA fan, so I might have to connect
in which
Dom
league?
I'm not sure. I think it's probably one of the more. I think it's a lower league. Okay. Like it's not like Bellator or UFC yet.
Gotcha.
But dude, I'm sure she could get there, man. I was kind of did a little bit of research on her. Sounds like she's 2-0, so that's awesome. Good for her.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, super cool. We might have to interview her one of these days if she wants to get on the podcast. Okay, so the other kind of crazy thing that I want to hit on, I don't know if a lot of people are aware. Obviously, we're definitely going to talk about GameStop tonight, guys. We're definitely going to talk about the wild ride that went on with the stock market, and both Jordan and I have pretty strong feelings about what happened.
Right, we do.
But I also want to give kind of a moment of recognition for the wild, terrible shit that's going on in Myanmar right now.
Which I will
Myanmar.
admittedly say I don't know a lot about at this point, but
Okay,
I'm
fair
excited to
enough.
learn.
Fair enough. I'm gonna give you guys like a super like very 1,000 feet elevated view of the situation a little bit. So I kind of in the past had done a little bit of research into Burma, which was the name before Myanmar. But basically, like old history, the Mongols at one point actually ruled the land and kind of conquered that area of what used to be called Burma. And then after the Mongols, the some of their own people kind of took over within that area, but it actually became a colony of Britain. And Burma was a colony of Britain, and Britain actually absorbed Myanmar into India. So it was actually um, a combination of British India, is what they call it, British India. Um, and
Whoa.
then eventually Burma was separated and got independence from Great Britain at one point. And then Japan, after Britain in like 1937 released Burma, uh, Japan during World War II then occupied Burma. Um, and there were some pretty like rough transitions that took place there. Eventually, Britain helped to liberate Burma from Japan, and then independence came in like the late 40s, early 50s. Um, and then from that point on, essentially, Burma has been kind of a constant state of the military fighting against independence of the people. And it's been this constant give and take back and forth. And a lot of the premise of the military fighting against the people has been based off of religious conflicts. So the majority of the population in Burma is Buddhist, and a lot of that population has been fighting against the Muslims. And the Muslims are a much smaller, very small population.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the early 2000s and late 90s, there was a female that was kind of like this person that acted as a agent for the people. Her name is like Aung San Suu Kyi or something like that. Anyhow, she was representing kind of like the people's freedom and democracy. Well, eventually she gained enough popularity that the military and the head leaders said, "Hey, yeah, let's take over, or let's allow this woman to have at least shared control, and we'll have fair elections and whatnot." Well, essentially, the military didn't like the decisions she was making as far as like the free democracy, and they didn't like they thought that she was promoting, they're saying rigged elections. So now basically just today slash early yesterday, whatever, the military again has taken over the government, and they've cut all communications outside of Burma. Like they've cut all phone lines, everything like that, no access. There still are, I guess, some fiber lines that are still running, but the people of Burma are freaking out. Reasonably so. They're tired of military dictatorships, and they're having a hard time. So that's a super light overview in case people were wanting to have that. So yes, that's what's going on in Burma.
Geography and history lesson. Here we go. A couple of
Right.
comments as you that are slightly before topic because they're probably like 30 seconds behind us. Screech was apparently in an adult film too before he stabbed a guy.
Oh,
And Dom said that his sister Danielle would probably love to come and chat with us, and we would love that too.
yeah. Love
And
to have a
then
pro MMA female fighter on here. That'd be awesome.
um, this was a comment I meant to tell you about this, and I haven't yet. But my dad just got Starlink internet from Tesla, well, Tesla parent
Dude,
company,
that's so cool.
and I just helped him get it installed today. And he's watching for the first time without stalls and internet slowing down
Right
tonight.
on. Very
So
cool. Very cool. How wild is that a company like Tesla literally, or not Tesla, I guess is it part of SpaceX? Starlink?
yeah, Starlink is launched by it's a separate corporation
Okay.
in that parent company that is launched by Starlink. So if you notice all the Tesla stuff the battery tech is used a lot with the Starlink stuff. A lot of their solar tech is used with the Starlink and with the SpaceX, and then the SpaceX is used to launch the Starlink stuff. So it's all like interconnected as goals to get to where he sees as a viable option for our country. So we have a good question though, going back to what you just talked about with your geography lesson and all that. Tammy says, why do we need to know about all of this, and how does it affect us, or does it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's an awesome question. I'll let you answer that, but I'll kind of put my 2 cents in first. Number one, it's a country where these people are rising up because they're having things either stripped away from them or whatever. It's important for us to look at what works and doesn't in case that ever happens here. And also, I think that as we've learned, like especially like this year, we've so divided even in our own country, how much strength it brings to a people if you can find a place to unify. And I think we'll see that play out with these people, and we're seeing it play out. So it's good to watch. It's good to not repeat mistakes. Like there's a lot of mistakes I've made in my life, and I'd rather my kids not make them and learn from mine versus make them and have to learn them over again. So what are your thoughts?
I think there's two kind of, there's multiple things that I would say that make it important to know about conflicts in other parts of the world. But two of the main aspects are, one, the country is in conflict, and a lot of the conflict historically has been over a religious motivation, as far as Muslims versus Buddhist, or Buddhist actually, the Buddhist government attacking a lot of the smaller Muslim population. And I think that it's a really important thing to recognize the risks of and the potential abuse of religion in government, and using that as a motivation or a ploy to attack a people group. So I think it's important to keep vigilant of that, and we've seen that in multiple ways throughout history.
In our own country.
And in our own country in different ways.
Yeah.
And then secondly, what's unique about this particular episode is the government is now being taken over by the military, and they're using it, and then they're saying the reason that they're being taken over by the military is because the military believes the elections were fraudulent. And in our country,
sounds familiar.
Right? Sounds familiar. And we have just been through similar strife and turmoil in our country. So I think there's many lessons to be learned by the potential risks of conflict within elections, and the importance of a people group feeling and understanding the validity in elections, and a government showing weights and balances, checks and balances for elections, as well as a people having trust in those elections. So I think there's a lot to learn from that.
Yeah, transparency in it. I think that we actually came really close to this happening in our country as well. I was like 50-50 whether or not something like this was going to take place. Not saying like I want that to, or I think that's the answer. Just like the tension still feels like it's there. Like we still have walls built around our capital. There's still people that are saying if you question the election, you should be thought of as insane. And all those things, it's like everyone on both sides of the aisle should really, if they see like half the country saying that there isn't enough transparency, they should pay attention to that and go, oh, well, I want to prove that it is, so that we have confidence in who our leader is and who our leaders are that we choose. I would also say this is a good lesson to look at, because if you are of a specific religion, so like I would identify with Christianity, and that's where my beliefs lie. But it's important for me to understand too that there's a freedom for someone else to choose something different, and it doesn't make me any less like in faith of what I believe, but I believe because of where we live and I believe that everyone should have this right, is the freedom of religion, which is something that our country was founded on. But I think that there's a lot to be learned from religion to be applied in government, because there are a lot of freedoms in religion, in some religions, not all, that can be applied to like how we run and how we allow people to live and pursue life and happiness and freedom.
Yeah, A lot of lessons to be learned. It's always good to recognize conflict in and outside of our current bubble,
Right.
so that way we can learn from it. Okay, so a couple other big topics that I want to hit on this week.
Yes.
Guys, let's just dig into GameStop right now.
Yeah.
You guys ready for this? Who out there is curious about GameStop and who's done the research? Who wants to know?
Who is like, what are you talking about with GameStop? Because we need to know, like, where do we set this? Do we start with crayons, or do we start with like full on construction paper?
Or do we go deep with calligraphy? Do we go into the calligraphy?
Tammy says, well, we're waiting on answers to that because people are probably behind.
Okay.
I published this so you can see it too. It just is in response to what we just said. When I think of other countries' experience, that sort of thing seems so far from what could happen to us. I guess I feel like it wouldn't happen in America because people wouldn't let it. But then looking at what's happening does make me wonder more too. I'm completely there with you. Like,
totally.
I would hope it wouldn't happen here, but that's why we have the Constitution that we have and the amendments that we have. Is like, I was watching, I think it was Dave Chappelle. It was a quote I saw from him today. He's like, we have the First Amendment, and just in case the first one doesn't work, we have the Second Amendment. And that's literally, like, I'm not calling for war. I'm not saying violence is the first answer. I think should be the last answer to anything. But that's why it's there. It's not there for hunting, like people would say. It's so anyway. GameStop.
Okay.
So
GameStop,
we have an answer. Here's the answer as to where we're at, and this is second grade level. All right, we can do that. My boys think it's closing down. I haven't had a time to think about it though. Oh, GameStop. I don't think this store is closing down, but we'll get into that and why. So,
yeah, good.
Do you want me to kind of do a summary here, or because I can?
Okay. Well, how about you give a little summary, and if anybody else has any input on the GameStop, we'd love to hear it. And then I have some very strong thoughts about the GameStop situation.
Yeah, so we'll get into the strong thoughts on the different trading, because we'll get into that as we ramp up. But there's some things that we need to understand before we talk about GameStop.
Yes.
So
give everybody a second grade overview.
Second grade overview is that GameStop is. Everyone knows what GameStop is, or they should. It's a video game store that sells new and used games and some other random items. They sell them online. They sell them in stores. It's a little more difficult to do these days with the lockdowns. And they are a publicly traded company. So they have stocks that are on the stock exchange, the international stock exchange, because they go across the world or most countries. And they were at a value that hedge funds, now we can stop there for a second and go, what's a hedge fund? So a hedge fund is a pool of money that comes from multiple different places. In this case, it was Melvin Capital and Citadel who backs them. And they are a conglomerate of funds. Most of these that I looked into, at least, were kind of extra money that wealthier elites had. A lot of these are not yet tied up in people's 401ks and stuff like that. Citadel and those have some holdings, so if they go under, it can affect those. But as far as these positions that they held were mostly extra capital from elitist people that have, hundreds of thousands of dollars to throw around, so that it turns into billions with these big companies. And they took a look at GameStop and they said it's around $20 a share, and they said it's definitely not worth that. This company has regressed in years, and so what do we got here? Second graders. I know what GameStop is. Yeah. Second graders now. Yeah, good.
Keep going though. Keep going. Yeah. You do good.
So they said we think it's worth less than that, and so they took out a position and they said we're going to make a call that it's going to go down. Now this is called shorting a stock. Now to put this really really simple, what they did is they would take, say you wanted to buy stocks at $20 and you wanted to short one stock. We'll make it really easy because then it's a small number. You would borrow someone's share at $20 and you would immediately sell that share for $20. And then the market would continue to play out. And you would say, I think by February 19th, it's going to be lower. And whatever it's at, I'll replace your stock. It's okay. So you borrow the share, you sell it for $20, you have $20 in your pocket. And when the market goes down, say it goes down to $1, then you would rebuy the share and hand it back. And you get to keep that $19. You've now essentially, you bought and sold it, borrowed it, and then it went down. Now, the problem with this is if you buy just a normal stock, say for $20 and it goes up, your earning potentials are basically infinite. As far as it can go, you can make money. But when you buy it in this direction, your earning potential it can be big, but your losses now can be infinite if you choose to not rebuy that stock. Because if I buy that stock for $20 and tomorrow, or by say February 19th, it goes up to $40, I now have to buy that stock and replace it for $40. And I'm out that $20 loss. Now, if you did that, and this is what happens. So now that you kind of understand what shorting is, they did that to 140% of the stocks available in GameStop. So more stocks than were physically available in GameStop, they did that for. But they did it at a $20 mark down to $10, and then they decided that would be greedy and double down and do it from $10 to $4. And then they thought, we'll be greedy again and we'll do $4 and we'll try to drive it into the ground. Now, this was, for me, this is where I would add in, I think this is clear market manipulation at this point. GameStop, I think, still has a viable option to sell things and a viable business model, whether it be online, digital, whatever. They're not worth zero. But these hedge funds were trying to make it forced to zero, because then they can pick up all the money and they can go and run and do something else with it. And to me, it's clear bullying at this point. They did it 3 different times.
And then what I'll kind of go into. Well, so you went down how it brought down.
So we got it down there. What happened at that point is a couple of people who are really smart on Reddit, and if you know what that is, it's just an online forum, started looking at that and going, hey, this is 140% shorted. If we can just get a few million people to buy a few shares because we think GameStop's worth more than zero, and then we just hold it, they don't have a need to buy. And we can just hold it. And that's exactly what they did. And these last few weeks, GameStop has fluctuated between $150 and $450 a share. And these companies are now having to look and figure out what can they do, because they're now in the between $14 and $50 billion in losses range, which is going to sink at least one of these companies at this point, if they're forced to pay that.
What happened as the stock value of GameStop started to increase? The companies, some of these hedge fund companies, in order to get out of a short sell or a short buy, you have to buy the stock at that higher valuation. So some of those companies had to take a loss and tried to buy the stock. Well, as they bought the stock, they had so much short-sold stock that they brought the value up themselves of the stock as well. So it was a cascading effect of people, the normal Joe buying stock, but then the hedge funds, because the value was going up so much, they didn't want to lose more money, so they had to buy stock, which then continued the increased value of that GameStop stock, which is pretty wild. So the controversy.
Oh, Josh Crane. Yes, his point here is when you borrow $100 and owe back $7,600 per $100, you're in trouble. And that's what they did to the billions. And this is where it begins to break down the system, because these people won't sell. If you go and I'll put up some links to, but if you go and it's a group called Wall Street Bets. They're calling it diamond hands, and that means they're holding as long as it takes. And a lot of them are holding now. They bought in at $4, $2, $6, $12. Some of them bought in $100, and they've got literally millions of dollars worth of shares, and they're just average, normal 9-to-5 people who, don't have that kind of money, but they've seen the market be bullied by these companies. They said, we're done. We're done with watching that happen. And now we've got these legal battles going on behind the scenes, where this week we saw one of the trading platforms called Robinhood, which is, it's, supposed to be for the everyday retail buyer. And they stopped allowing the purchases of GameStop stock, AMC stock, Nokia stock, and there was one other one I can't remember, but they did allow you to sell it. And that's where the question marks start to show up, is like, if I'm allowed to sell it, who's buying it?
Well, so here's what happened.
If no one can buy, who's buying my sell?
So here's what happened. GameStop put a freeze on the purchasing of the GameStop stock, right? So when they did that, the only people they were protecting, because now remember, Robinhood has a responsibility. They have to have the funds to be able to provide people back if someone sells that stock, right? That's their responsibility. But that's not what they froze. They froze the people acquisition of buying the stock, right? So essentially, they were not protecting themselves in that situation. They were protecting the larger hedge funds that had interests in this stock not increasing in value beyond what it already was. So if Robinhood had released a comment saying, hey, we are actually freezing the acquisition and the selling of the stock, that would perhaps lead more credibility to it. But that's not what they said.
And here's what happened too: is a few of the trading places did they shut down. They did kind of the same thing that Robinhood did, except they also shut down selling, I believe. Now here's what I understood, because I listened to like an hour-long interview last night with there's another app that I find actually better now, especially considering what Robinhood did with theirs, and it's called Webull. Webull, like we are bull on the market.
Webull.
So it sounds like Webull, like but it's like a bull, like it's a market term. So here's a good question before I go into that, because they also did do this, and Josh just brought this up too. He said, I got shares, but I can't buy fractional shares, which is true. So this is something that Robinhood allows, and fractional shares are, say you want to buy into Tesla, but you know, a Tesla share is like almost $800 or more right now. I don't really know what the market value is.
Amazon's like $3,000.
But buy one, you'd have to put down $800 to own one share of Tesla. And say you're like, you know, I like Tesla, but I don't have $800 to own a part of Tesla. You could buy a tenth of it, and now you have an $80 share.
It's kind of like Bitcoin.
So it's kind of like Bitcoin. It splits it into pieces. Yeah. I don't actually know how they make that work, but they do. But they shut down fractional shares just of these stocks. So,
yeah. So the controversy was essentially.
This is what we're getting to. These are good questions tonight, guys. You guys are.
Yeah.
So nice sound effect. Weeble.
Yeah. So what's happening now?
What's going to happen now? And this is where we're kind of in that, watching what's going to happen now. Because that's what I was going to get to is this. I listened to an interview from the CEO of Webull, and he said behind the scenes what's going on with Robinhood is this. Everyone relies. So it used to be, it's easier to understand if you understand kind of how stocks used to be. It used to be that you would go to Wall Street and you would go and you would physically hand cash over for shares, and that would be the cash exchange. So now what happens is when I buy a share, that they will go digitally and reserve that share, and they will front that money. Okay. So imagine it's just me. That's not so bad. Like I buy, 5 shares of, you name it, AMC, and it's like $60. Okay. So that's not bad. They do that, and they have 2 days to get the $60 over to the company to secure that share and confirm that transaction. And it used to be that like they only had to have in like a certain percentage of those sales. So they could have like 3% or 10%, whatever they had agreed on with that holding company, and then the company that does the transaction of those shares. When this happened, because they can't guarantee, now that it's such a big loss for these companies, it's billions of dollars. We're talking like 18 to $50 billion, and we don't even know when their time is up. They can't guarantee that those shares, if they're sold on the market, will be able to be paid out. So say you had $50 million in shares and you're like, awesome, I'm rich. And you go to sell them and they sell and they don't give you your money because the people can't pay. That's a problem, and that's a complete breakdown of the system. And that's what we're seeing. So because of that, these companies now, these holding companies are requiring 100% in there that like basically back the shares. That way they're not left holding the bag, not being able to pay back, because it exchanges a few different hands. So say Robinhood fronts the money, they get the share, and the next person does the exchange. They had fronted the money to give it to them. But if it gets to the third person down the run that exchanges that share and gives it to them, they can't pay the money, then the whole system breaks. And that's what's happening is you've got like 2 and 3 companies deep bailing each other out who can't afford the bet that they made on Wall Street. And so these companies are like, shoot, we have to stop. So that's where Robinhood got interesting, is they should have shut down both buying and selling.
Exactly.
But they only shut down buying so that the selling could still happen and hopefully arbitrarily drop the price of GameStop so that these people could start to see some of their positions. Yeah, the only people benefiting from that are the hedge funds.
Are the large brokerage hedge funds. And a lot of those brokerage hedge funds were not brokerage hedge funds that the majority of the population, the working man, the normal working man and their hospital 401k or their school's 401k or whatever job was. A lot of those hedge funds were not short sell funds.
Right.
These were billionaires that basically wanted to take advantage of the market and wanted to influence it. And so GameStop was affecting their revenue, and Robinhood basically only sought their best interest.
And here is exactly where I'm at as well. Suspicious. Like, I don't know who to blame. I don't know if there is anyone to blame, but it all seems, as they say in Among Us, super sus. And
super sus.
Like, what's going on? Like, because this Webull CEO has come out and been very, very transparent. It's like, look, I have to slow down how many shares you can buy, because if you could buy them all, I don't have the money to front it, and I can't guarantee the people selling will get paid. That's how I'm protecting you. And he's doing it on both sides. He's saying buying and selling.
That's super credible about this situation is a lot, for the as sketchy as it is that Robinhood did the act. One thing that is kind of I'm grateful for is we're seeing across the aisle bipartisan agreement that the fat cats basically are pulling a really sketchy move. So you can see, I don't know if anybody out there watches Barstool Sports, but I really enjoy a lot of Barstool Sports commentary. And their president, Dave Portnoy, was actually on CNN. And Dave Portnoy would typically be a little bit more probably favored amongst the right-leaning media. Right. But then on CNN, Chris Cuomo was talking about this. And both parties, both sides were basically saying this is incredibly sketchy that we are seeing these large brokerage firms be favored over the basic common guy
Which
investing.
Is, I mean, it's like, it's like I've been saying, like, it's super strange that this is the one thing that is beginning to unify both sides. And I think it's good, but at the same time, so I have up right now is this when everyone starts pulling their money out or whatever? So that's you're kind of referencing something that happened for the Great Depression, where people are like, oh, I'm going to get my money out of the banks, and the banks didn't have the money. Similar, but this would be like you had investments, you put in $3,000, now they're worth $3 million, and you go to sell your GameStop stock, and there's no one, the people that can buy it or need to buy it can't afford to pay you for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, so Josh Crane made a really, really, really good point.
I just saw it.
That it's crazy that in this situation, anybody out there,
I'm going to read it real quick for our audio audience.
And then I'll have something to say about
he said, I lost all of my money when they did this. My bets against the hedges, which were very smart, and buying into the companies. But now we understand who's actually in charge, and when the COE of NASDAQ, or CEO or COE of NASDAQ is calling for regulation. When has NASDAQ ever wanted regulation? Super good question. Exactly. Like Curtis says, both Fox and CNN are both upset about it. And with reason. That's the thing, is like they'll call what the retail buyers right now are doing market manipulation, when they were very well doing market manipulation themselves to short 140% of this stock.
Well, and a really good example of this is the name of the hedge fund CEO eludes me right now, but when the pandemic had first started, one of the head brokerage leaders went on CNN and he said, "Everybody, you have to sell all hotel stocks, essentially, right? So he was saying nobody's going to be going to hotels. The pandemic's going to be going on. Sell your stock, dump your stock.
Right.
Well, that same day, he invested $100 million in short sales for hotel industry.
Right.
And so like there's influence from these large CEOs on media platforms, right? So there is already market manipulation. So anybody that says, hey, Reddit and social media should be regulated, like, and this is exactly what the CEO of Wall Street, she went on the news and said, hey, there needs to be regulation that social media platforms, Reddit, Facebook, these different types of platforms, that basic people cannot influence the market, because that's causing investors to lose massive amount of money and create false narratives. It's like, well, that's exactly what you guys do. You just do it through CNN, and you just do it through Fox News, and you just do it through, older platforms.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So that's my soapbox.
It's so true. So look at this. So here's what Elon Musk said this week. He's been great to watch through this, because some of these companies tried to short his Tesla stock, and he's kind of mad at them, with reason, because they tried to pull his company down as well. And so he's been like, hey, they need regulation too. But here's what he said. You can't sell a house you don't own, can't sell cars you don't own, but you can sell stock you don't own. This is BS. Shorting is a scam, legal only for vestigial reasons.
Okay. So I've actually looked into this. I really had question of why we even have short selling stocks. Okay.
Yeah.
So there is a degree of protection that short selling stocks provides the stock market in our economy.
Okay, go on.
And that actually was instigated during the Great Depression.
Okay.
Or shortly after the Great Depression, because and I'm not 100% accurate on the timing, but from what I had understood, that short selling wasn't really taking place until after the Great Depression, and that the regulators or whoever found out that if people are able to actually earn money or somehow gain capital on the stock market decreasing, it helps balance out when you have these massive dumps. Okay. So in those situations where you have basically your entire economy is not based off of whether the stock market goes really high, or all of the stock go really high. Essentially, in situations where the stock market goes down, there are people and there are large groups that could potentially have a safety net from that as well.
Okay.
So it was like, you got to be able to play the market going either direction. Is that, but well, the influence.
I guess my pushback would be the market playing in that direction is the large companies selling it. If they're saying it's not worth what it is, then they sell their position. I think that betting against, like, going in the negative like they did, we're seeing now that it can be broken if enough people get in there. So if it's not a sorry, the browser's up. But I'm gonna make some adjustments while people are watching. If it's not like maybe they have to put more money in. Maybe they have to say, like, this is where it ends, and we're putting all this money in that we could potentially lose. If not, we'll gain it back. Don't let them go into debt like this. Because then their position's covered. Like, make them cover the worst position they could think of.
Well, and Josh made a great point. He said 10% of his portfolio are option bets, so it helps a lot on the red days. So essentially, in situations where, you might not have a super hot market, you might not have all negatives. It might not all be in the red for you.
Yeah, I could see that, but but okay. Even if we like push back a little bit on that and we say, how about you can't short more than there is.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's reasonable to say you shouldn't be able to short 140% of the stocks.
From my basic understanding, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Options are a bet the stock will go up or down. So that's it. Right. That's I can't remember what they call it. There's another, it's like staggered. Is that what it's called, Josh? I can't remember. There's a term for it. That's like a up or down.
No, that's actually a really good point, Jordan, as far as like well, that's kind of like in any situation, not spending more money on your credit card than what you have in the bank.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is, like, they did that, but even then though, say I borrow your stock for $20, okay, and I say I'll give it back. I should also say, if this goes, I should have to put in enough money for like, say, double or whatever. And when it gets to that point, I can't lose any more than that, but it's all gone. Like that way that they see the risk. And otherwise, like in this whole thing, when they're able to go say like 100% of GameStop, I'm going to borrow them and I'm shorting the whole company. That's to me, you can't, it doesn't seem logical. It seems to me like you have too much power in the public market to be able to do that. If they have enough money to short an entire company and say, we'll just take this company into the ground.
Well, I think the other option is perhaps when they're talking about having regulation, right? I think regulation, kind of how is it the SEC has regulation with like Elon Musk when he talks about everybody should sell or buy my stock right now. When he tweets about that, there was like a year ago where he was making tweets about his stock, and it was considered a conflict of interest because he's the CEO and he was basically benefiting off of kind of insider trading, right?
Right.
So in the same respect, I think if you want to talk about regulation, we could benefit from regulation of hedge fund. If you're a part of any type of either executive level or anything within a company where your company is based off of, acquiring stock, then I think that you should be restricted on your media or regulated on your certain media input that you have towards those stocks. That could be another consideration.
Yeah, but they're a private company.
Well, but that's the same thing with Elon Musk. He's a private company.
I know.
So
I'm using your own words against you. Like, I guess like.
No, I don't think in this situation it is.
Right.
Because I think
I agree with you.
It's insider trading.
It's outsider trading. Because if he's saying it out there, everyone has the information. So like.
Yeah. But
and that's where they're trying to nab this group of Redditors on, is saying, well, it's collusion, it's working together. They can't call it insider trading because it's literally on a public platform, and everyone has access to it. And they're saying, we're just going to hold. Everyone hold. It's a giant hedge fund of different people with a button, and they all can agree to hit the button at the same time or not. Like,
yeah. Well, the other thing that's pretty wild is not only has there been GameStop stock that blew up, but AMC stock, which is, theaters, that sort of thing, that really exploded quite a bit as well. It's still elevated.
And those positions
are higher than normal.
They're saying those positions they're estimating are later than GameStop. So it really could be the next GameStop. We could see it sitting at like what, $12.50 today.
It's not a bad idea, guys.
It could.
If you have
it could be sitting at
$50. Maybe put it on AMC.
Well,
or you could lose $50, and that wouldn't hurt you.
And again, we're not going to give you advice. Do your own research, but it could be the next GameStop. It could be trading at $12.50 today, and next week it's at $200 like GameStop is today. So who knows? Right. So Tammy asked again. We talked about this in the beginning. What is a hedge fund? It's a conglomerate of people who have put in money into one big fund to basically buy position in doing different higher risk type investing with one firm. So think of it, all these people buying and selling GameStop on their own. If all of them just put it into one spot with one person controlling it, that would be a hedge fund. But right now we have this hedge fund of tons of people outside.
I just want to make a clear statement. Josh Crane is like on point with all of his stock commentary. Dude, like he knows a ton about stocks. Josh, I need to have a sit down with you, bro.
Just
I need to
text him after this, or a game with us late at night, and that's all he talks about, man.
I need to have a sit down with you, man, and absorb some of your knowledge, bro, because you're on point with all this stuff, man. I need to get some of your input.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
this is clearer than what I said. I mean, I don't think what I said didn't make sense, but this is a great description.
Yeah, you can summarize
a bunch of people pooling resources into a large fund to have more buying power and investing power. That is a hedge fund.
Yeah.
Boom, right there. Yeah. Perfect.
Exactly. Okay, so those were
that's kind of what's going on. It's still sitting there. Someone asked, "Is GameStop still alive?" The store is. They were trying to do this as well to American Airlines or AAL if you go look them up. And American Airlines was able to liquidate some of their stock due to this and gain about $1.5 billion to put into some of their reconstruction stuff that they needed to do. And it's actually saved their company. They literally are thanking the little guys for not AMC allowing their companies to tank, because the little guys said, it's worth something. I go there.
What's also really unique, guys, and this is kind of one of the last things. Yes, Josh,
do you want to
I'm
join
in your hedge, bro.
You should.
Let's do it, man.
I totally think you should.
Let's do it, man. I'm all in.
Get on GroupMe. Seriously.
But
He'll invite you.
The crazy thing also is to see the hedge funds and the manipulations that they're trying to do to correct the GameStop funds. So what they've been doing, some of the ploys of the larger hedge funds and these CEOs, one is they've started to release in the media saying, oh, GameStop value is going to go down, man. They're going to go down. You're seeing them dump in media that GameStop value is going to go down.
You keep talking about that. I'm going to put up a link real quick that you can reference.
Not only that, but then this is kind of the sketchy thing. One of the larger hedge funds, okay, that had a bunch of money in GameStop and AMC, right? They had a lot of money in AMC.
See, look at this.
This larger hedge fund was saying, and they were called something silver. I can't remember the name of them, something silver. But they were saying, hey, the value in this company, the value in this hedge fund is going to go way up. So sell your AMC stock and buy it in this silver company.
AVG and SLV.
They wanted to drive the price of AMC down and then bring their own hedge fund value up.
Yep.
So it was basically benefiting them on both sides.
They were like 47% owner in those silver stocks, and were trying to drive it up. And they would call that insider trading. If they've tried to nab Elon Musk on it, it's literally what they're doing. But what I just put up here was a post on Wall Street Bets on Reddit. And it said, in case you needed proof that there are imposters among us, a bot posting the same negative sentiment comment multiple times per minute. GME YOLO update. Can't the hedge funds just drive the price down further like today and then cover their short positions at a lower cost and then no short squeeze? And he's got copied and pasted. Like,
who was this that wrote this?
This is one of the mods from Wall Street Bets.
Oh, okay.
And it's within a minute of each other, pasted in tons and tons and tons of different threads. The same person saying the same exact thing in the same exact way in a whole bunch of different places all at once, which means somebody programmed a bot to go in and start saying things to these people who are investing.
Not surprised.
And they think that there's manipulation going on these kids' side. Like,
so everybody out there, if you got GameStop stock, hold. Don't let the big media influence you. Hodl. If you have a little bit of money to waste and you can throw it away and not worry about losing it, put $50 in AMC, maybe even put $50 in Bed Bath & Beyond, because that was one of the highest. That was within the top 10 most shorted stocks out there as well. But you have to be willing to totally lose all that money. If you feel comfortable losing it, then it's okay.
He thinks that what they were doing did work if manipulation didn't happen. Now, granted, the manipulation is on multiple fronts. So it's the news, putting out disinformation. It's multiple podcasts, multiple posts on Twitter, multiple bots on Reddit. And then also Robinhood and some others having to slow down just the buying, not the selling of their positions for retail buyers only. He thinks that they would probably be around $800 already.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep.
Which I would 100%. Agree with.
Okay, so guys, we covered.
You think 45? What?
I think she thinks that she could invest maybe $45.
Oh, 45. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Buy whole shares. Just get like 3 of them.
Okay, so we covered.
But we're not. It's not our advice. It's for fun. It's to stick it to the man. Most of these people,
lose all that money.
There's definitely people that have like $55 million in GameStop stock, and they've said, I don't care if I get this money if it takes these people down.
Yeah.
So that's where people are at.
We covered Screech. We covered Myanmar.
So many
things. We covered
things.
Myanmar. We covered some of GameStop. This is now the time, guys, to put on your tinfoil hat. Okay.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm so excited.
This is a part of the podcast for your tinfoil hat.
Do it.
And we're getting close to the end here, so I'm gonna take my jacket off because I'm a little hot.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go into the little bit of a tinfoil hat with
tinfoil hat time.
With the virus.
Oh gosh.
I'm just gonna
here we go.
touch on a little something here. Okay.
Did you like that little intro? The tinfoil hat time.
Yes, tinfoil hat time. So something that I broached about 6 months ago maybe is that there was an article that came out and it showed that the World Health Organization had funding that was being contributed to the Wuhan viral lab. Okay.
The CCP virus.
Yeah. Yeah, you could call that. But
it's only safe
essentially
thing to call it these days.
There was multiple countries that were funding the research of different types of viruses within this virology lab in China. Okay, so not only was it most countries, but it was the United States had a large amount of money they were contributing within and to this research lab. Fauci was actually a part of this research lab organization. Now he wasn't necessarily in control of it, but he was a contributing member as far as peer review and inputs on lab research.
Josh says, "Who?
Who? Yeah, who? Exactly. Yeah. So what we've come to find out recently, and I'll have a video that I want you guys to watch. I'll put it in my links if
it's really good.
Is it in my links already?
No, it's not. You send it to me. I'll put it in there. I will say I'm proud of you. So Curtis sent me and said, "Don't rule this out just because it's from Fox News," which he knows me well. I rule out pretty much everything from any mainstream media these days, which everyone probably should. And
they should.
But this one guy, I would say most everything I've seen of his is very backed by research, and it's also there's a couple people that I do like on Fox that actually show their own research. So
his name is Steve Hilton, and the reason I kind of like some of his input and research is because I've seen him on.
That's what it is.
The accent, but I've seen him on both sides of the media,
yes.
And his input on both sides has been.
He takes a balanced approach,
like level-headed. So anyhow, back in the Obama administration, okay, there was a type of research that the Obama administration had not outlawed, but they put a moratorium. Is that the right word for it? Maybe moratorium. They put a
pause.
A restriction on it. It's called gain of function research. And that was taking place at multiple US labs, but also at obviously out of the country labs. Now, the government at that time had been funding other countries to do this gain of research. And basically what that included was taking viruses that potentially could be harmful to the population and adding and manipulating the viruses that would then allow them to be more virulent or allow them to be more lethal, and then trying to figure out how to treat those viruses. So the pros of this type of research, gain of research, was it allowed gain of function. Sorry, it allowed the researchers to potentially find a way of treating a virus that was more lethal or more virulent, easier to spread.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it increased the risk of there being an outbreak of a virus that's extremely lethal as well. And there was other types of kind of moral issues with it and questions and quandaries.
Right.
So essentially, though, now we're at a place where, and this is tinfoil time, guys, tinfoil time. This is deep tinfoil.
Except there is a lot of stuff to back up this tinfoil hat stuff.
Yeah.
There's some stuff you kind of have to draw some conclusions. But there's a concern
and a thought of okay, how did we get to this point where there's been a specific virus that has been allowed in a way to be developed that is potentially kind of the perfect spreader throughout the population, and it doesn't die off, but it doesn't kill its hosts too fast, which then allows it to shed to other hosts.
Right.
And was it an intentional release or was it an accidental release? And then this is where you get deep state kind of talk and those sort of things. But the controversy is people need to recognize and be held to a degree accountable that not only is it the United States that actually may have contributed to the funding of this type of outbreak, but also is it the responsibility of certain researchers within the United States, i.e. maybe even Fauci, does he need to be held responsible for helping to develop this type of virus, or someone within his organization and within the Chinese organization, obviously. Now, whether or not it was released intentionally, there's deep state.
That's where you have to kind of be like, I can't prove that. You can prove the funding. You can prove where it was. Now they're not letting him actually investigate where it came from there.
Right.
They were very resistant. Then they said they would allow them, and then they're very resistant again. It's like,
Yeah.
if someone didn't let me look in their house because I thought they had committed murder and I was looking for a murder weapon, and they were like, "No, sorry, you can't come in, even with a warrant. I'm going to fight it." I began to get suspicious. Like,
So basically, the tinfoil stuff for me is I do not like that the U.S. and multiple World Health Organizations have not admitted to the fact that they are complicit in the actual development of this virus.
right,
And that's where I feel like
a little
someone needs to
freaky,
be more
a little
responsible with.
scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tammy says, "I feel some Resident Evil vibes."
Yeah.
We're completely 100% there with you.
Yeah. And Shay made a good comment that it was created in a lab. That part we need to get out the word out. Yeah, it was.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of evidence pointing towards it was not just a natural.
There's a lot of people now, and the research is now being peer reviewed as to it. There is like a small percent chance that it wasn't created in a lab, but they all track back to a man-made thing. And if it's man-made, it probably came from a lab. Like, you can't. It's not going to be accidental, whatever, because the original virus that they discovered it was bats in a cave, but it didn't spread, and now it does.
There was some development, I believe.
Yeah.
But okay, so I got some TILs, bro. You got any TILs?
Dude, I do. I have one. So you go first.
Okay, I'll go first. Some of my TILs I don't know if I'm gonna read, but first of all, pertaining to horses.
Go.
Today I learned horses cannot vomit because they have a strong lower esophageal sphincter that acts as a one-way valve preventing food from coming up. Now, something that I did know, that we have a treatment for this for humans as well.
Mm-hmm.
Some people that have really severe acid reflux issues or really severe esophageal issues, there's actually a treatment that we put magnetic kind of rings around the base of the esophagus that opens when you swallow, but closes up.
I was super hoping it was like a faucet, like the valve guy
on the outside,
like on the outside that you can close. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That's
all right. Hit me with your TIL.
Well, first off, I want to answer a question because they're delayed behind us. So Tammy did ask one last question pertaining to what you said. She said, "Can this be proven somehow?" Watch the video that we'll put into the show notes. If you go to, I think that my uncle was asking, how can you find our files and stuff? I'm assuming you mean our past podcasts. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. If you just search for Testing Normal, you can find us in Spotify. You can find us on YouTube. Every video is there. You can even find us on Rumble. But that only has the last like 3 shows on it. And then you can also just go to testingnormal.com, and that's where all of our show notes are. If you go to any episode, like pretty much anything we talked about, there will be a link there. And the reason we do that is because some of the links that we share would get us kicked off Facebook. So I purposefully don't put them on Facebook so that we can have it on our own page and be all free speechy about it. So yes, it can be proven. Yes, it can be backed up. And I
just have the links on there now.
This guy made all of his information public so that they could see what he used to research to prove it. But watch the video and you'll get more information than we just chatted about. So,
all right, hit me with your TIL.
My TIL is, today I learned that Iceland has the largest banana plantation in Europe, and they use geothermal energy to heat greenhouses, allowing for the production of tropical fruits like bananas.
Bananas.
A banana. Isn't that crazy? Iceland.
It's bananas. BANANAS.
Pretty cray.
Okay, now this TIL is kind of interesting, but it makes a lot of sense when you think about it from an evolutionary standpoint. Okay, and it gets kind of a little crazy, but in an article that I was reading, a research article, it was actually a really good one. I'll have a link in there for you. Today I learned that both testosterone levels and testicular volume negatively correlate with paternal caregiving. So
wait, what is that?
This suggests.
So explain that to me like I'm 5.
Caregiving. So in other words, like once kids come, your testicular volume and your testosterone level, there's usually a direct correlation with those decreasing.
So that you're more maternal?
So they think that there's a correlation with improving your maternal abilities, but also there's probably an environmental factor with exhaustion.
You think?
But in other words,
Stress.
once kids come, sex is less frequent and you're busy rearing your child, and that makes you a better father to a degree. But from an evolutionary standpoint, once you're able to have, if you're not in that stage of being paternal, essentially you have typically a higher testosterone level, and this was found across different ages as well. So if you were obviously testosterone level is affected by age, but having children themselves, there was a consistent direct correlation with testosterone level and testicular volume. So that's just a crazy TIL that I was reading about. Just wanted you guys to know.
They beat us down, David Patty. Yes, they do, man.
They do, bro, David.
Good.
They do, man. They take our manhood.
They did. Yeah.
They just take it. They just mix it up.
Yeah, they do. It's like you can't get it back. TRT, man.
TRT. Listen, let's get a TRT clinic, guys. You guys want to get yoked?
I'll be your first patient. Okay.
All right. So
shower thoughts. Here we go. Driving an old car is indicative of being poor, while driving a really old car is indicative of being classy and wealthy.
Yes. Yeah, there's like a cutoff. It's like 30 years, older than 30 years from current, time is cool. 30 to now is not as cool.
David's wife commented too. Oh, good old marital bliss.
All right, my first shower thought.
In the comments.
Bamboo forests are actually fields because bamboo is technically a type of grass.
It's true. Really tall.
Yeah.
I guess so would like hemp.
Yeah.
Okay. There are so many different apple flavors. You ever go to the grocery store and you buy an apple, you're like, which one do I get? Like, this one costs more, but what's the difference? This one looks gross, but is this one better? This one's discolored. This one's shinier. Looks like it has more wax on it.
Right.
But there's only one apple juice flavor.
Oh my God. You're right. Well, yeah. Right. I guess there's apple
It's like other mixed with other fruits. But if you just get apple juice,
you don't get Braeburn apple juice flavor.
This is Granny Smith apple juice. This is Fuji apple juice. This is
Can't argue that one.
Yeah.
Good point. Okay. Up and down are opposites. But asking someone if they're up for something is exactly the same as asking someone if they're down for something.
It's true. Although it might be like how close of friends you are as to which one you ask.
True. Yeah. Or which one you're more comfortable with.
Right.
All right.
We talked about other countries tonight. Here's one. Independence from Britain is one of the most internationally celebrated holidays around the world.
Yeah, it is. Exactly with, Myanmar.
Yep.
India. Yeah, they colonized.
Although Hong Kong doesn't want to celebrate it.
Yeah, Hong Kong does not want to. I thought that's the exact thing. I forgot. Yes, I was going to say that.
They take the cheapest apples and make juice. That's true. Yeah, you're right. They're probably all mixed, but it's funny that, they probably have the rotten, gross apples that come off the ground and they just
no, that was Shay. Sorry.
Sift them up.
Okay, so this is actually the last shower thought I have. Once we adequately colonize Mars, it would make a really good place for a nursing home. If you think about it, since gravity there is so much lower and people with weaker muscles could move easier than they could here on Earth. And maybe not just a nursing home, like a rehab facility.
Yeah.
Like could have someone on with, MS or something like that. They couldn't function as easy or move around, brittle bone, or people that have osteogenica imperfecta where their bones break easier, That's just a thought. Funny things.
Tammy asks if this whole apple juice thing is a fact or if we need to further investigate the apple juice idea.
I don't know.
We'll put our smartest people on it. Amador, where are you at? Like, can you look that up?
Yeah, I don't think Amador's
not on here. No, but we'll give him a hard time anyway since he's not here.
Yeah. All right, hit me with your last shower thought.
Well, I have two, and I don't.
Okay.
I don't really. Yeah, I'm gonna read them both to you. We'd probably see a big drop in processed food sales if companies put the packed on date in addition to the expires on date.
True. Yeah, for sure.
Because that would be gross.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a good one.
Like, oh, this was a year ago they packaged this?
Yeah.
This was packaged in 2018?
That's a good one.
Oh, and then here's the last one. This is perspective, guys. That's why we talk about these things, because sometimes your perspective is off and you learn something new. When you need to roll a 6, but the die shows a 5, you think, that was close. Even though it's not really true, because the 5 is like the furthest from the 6.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's
right.
Not even close.
Not numerically, but yeah.
If you roll a 1, you actually were closer to a 6 than... Yeah.
That's so true. That's good. I like it. Well, guys, thank you so much for logging on and commenting and having a blast with us tonight. It was super fun. We appreciate all of you.
Oh, Amador had surgery today. That's right.
Oh, Amador had surgery. Best of luck to you, bro.
I'll tell you after we get off what happened to him.
Okay. Was it like a
it was a
like
bull riding accident.
Part of his manhood?
It was a bull riding accident, and he got skewered by the largest bull in the Northwest, and flung over a 12-foot fence and landed in a cactus pile.
Oh, bro. So that's brutal. Okay. All right, guys. Well, we appreciate y'all. Like us on Facebook, Instagram, subscribe if you don't mind, on YouTube or wherever you listen to us. Make sure you subscribe and give us a like. We appreciate you all so much. And
definitely, too, I would add, because we do talk about all these things, we do provide links and stuff, and you can go see the crazy places we get them from, and you can come back with your questions and say, why did you read from this place? Why do you care about this place? And because there's a lot of different places that we're like, well, we don't trust everything, but we trust this, and this is why. So go look at testingnormal.com. We like to see people. We like to see traffic there, but that's where you can find all the videos, audio, pretty much the easiest, unless you go look us up on one of their platforms. So thanks for stopping by tonight, guys.
All right. Have a good week.
See you guys.